Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Kehr, systems designer and trainer here at Exertis Almo. And with me today is Drew Metherall, our programming manager here at Exertis Almo. And first, let me ask Drew, how long have you been in the audiovisual industry and what's your background in AV programming?
Well, Tom, I've been in the industry approximately 37 years. My background with programming is programming AMX, Crestron, Extron for approximately 27 years.
Wow, okay. So you've also programmed Panja. So you've programmed
Yes.
AMX twice now.
Yep.
Yeah, inside joke. Yeah. Programming in the AV industry has kind of a long history of being unique. There's a user interface, be it a button panel or touch panel, often a lot of sensors and a bunch of things that do stuff. And you're expected to tie all this together in a way that makes the experience better and makes sense to the end user. So at home, we see things like universal remote controls. What makes professional AV control so different and unique from a residential type system?
Well, I think it's more of the flexibility and things like macros you can build, and you interface with a lot more different products, sensors, temperature controls, lighting. Universal remotes have some limits to what you can do with them. It's more of a configurable system, and there are configurable systems in the AV industry as well. Just different levels of how you configure a device versus actually programming a device.
Okay. You mentioned the word macro. For those that don't know what a macro is, can you define that?
So a macro is kind of a default setting. For some people, might understand that a little better. So if you walk in a room, you touch the screen, it turns on the system, it routes a certain source to that screen, it routes it to its speakers in the room, microphones get routed to a certain place, shades go down, lights come on. So a macro is the combination of all those functions happening with a single button push.
Okay. So it combines a bunch of events into one button push, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Now, we obviously set up and program the products that we distribute as a value-added distributor. What about the products we don't distribute?
Yeah, we try to cover all our bases as much as we can. There's some systems out there that we probably won't program because just for, it's not really, they're not really up to our level of necessity of programming. Programming is pretty advanced of what we do. AMX, Crestron, QSys, Extron all take quite a bit of time to program. If we have a system that's, a simple keypad or something like that, we will do those jobs for certain things, but there are certain manufacturers we kind of stay away from.
Yeah. And some of those also kind of lean into the residential side of things.
Correct.
I know as well. Yeah. So if it probably has a basis in residential, it may not be suitable for the pro side.
Yeah.
Most manufacturers require factory trained certified programmers. Do we hold all those necessary certifications for all these control system manufacturers?
If we don't, we're getting there. I held a AMX certification for 20 years. I have since lost it because my last job we did mostly Crestron. We have one of our programmers that has a Crestron certification, silver level, and then actually our new programmer coming in. I'm not sure if he still has it, but he had a platinum level Crestron certification at that time. We all also hold certifications in Extron, and we're just getting into. We've gotten most of our certification for QSys. We haven't finished the more advanced programming levels of QSys, but we will be doing that this year.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with audiovisual programming. There's always ongoing training and levels to achieve. Yeah. And there's even new things coming out. In fact, this kind of leads into my next question. Control and audio were the first to kind of migrate to Ethernet using Ethernet. Now we've got video being transported via Ethernet. What are some of the advantages of using Ethernet for an audiovisual control system? And can all of this coexist on the same network?
Yeah, it can to some degree. There are some caveats with mixing audio and video and control on the same network that you have to be aware of and in a lot of cases now, the network switches that are coming out are AV-centric network switches that allow you to configure them for AV control. Some of the benefits are that you can have all those signals on one line. So if you're building a room, or if you're building multiple rooms, you can actually have a low voltage network type company to come in to do all the wiring, because it's all network. It also carries, a lot of these devices carry PoE or power over that network cable for some of these devices. So it becomes a lot more simplified for installation.
Yeah, I've noticed some of the cameras, requiring PoE plus. That seems pretty commonplace now. Um, if someone needs changes done to an existing control system that they already have, can we assist there?
Yes, we can. There are some caveats to that, depending on what manufacturer you're working with. A lot of the control or control files are compiled files, which means they're kind of locked down. But if the client already has the original code, or if they're willing to pay for a complete rewrite, we can do that work as well. We have worked with other people's code for various different situations, so it's definitely possible. And again, it's manufacturer specific of how you should approach jobs like that.
Yeah, that's why it's always important for the end user to have a copy of the original code to be able to
Yep.
do that. And kind of related to this, audiovisual systems are often viewed as very proprietary. Anything changing there?
Yep, lots has been changing in the past several years. Crestron is going with a C# route, which is a standard computer programming language. The QSys uses a Lua language, which is also a very open source type of approach to programming. And now AMX has their Muse line that also works with the Python programming language, which again is from the computer world.
Yeah, I do like the way all that's migrating to more open source code, honestly. Um, Now, during an installation, we see the bill of materials and we've got a system schematic or a flow diagram. What other documentation do you need as you begin to put the program together?
We usually ask for a scope of work or a programming narrative, basically a description of what each button does, or at least a general description of what each page is for. Um, we can get that information during our discovery phase. I mean, it's not a necessity if you're coming in for a quote. We typically need a bill of materials and a signal flow and/or a narrative. We don't need all three just to do a quote. But once we get into the actual work of it, we definitely want all that information.
Yeah, you kind of need to know what it is they expect the system to do for them to be
Yep.
able to do that. In programming, what we do here by nature is kind of event driven. In other words, someone has to hit a button or a sensor needs to detect a change before something happens. What are some of the things you can incorporate into a system for easier use?
In a lot of cases, most programmers now are using a video sync signal off of some of the digital or Ethernet-based video transmitters. So essentially, in layman's terms, someone comes in and plugs in their laptop. That sends a signal to the control system, and we can take that signal and have the system turn on and route to that source without having to even touch a button.
Oh, nice.
So that's they also use sensors on touch panels. They're built into a lot of the touch panels, and you can put a sensor in the room as well.
Yeah, I see a lot of folks do just an occupancy sensor in the room so that if it's unused, you don't have a, display or projector on for the entire weekend.
Yeah, I would also add that you can use as like divisible rooms use sensors on the walls. So if the wall's open, it triggers a different scenario, and you can show and hide buttons on a touch panel. So you basically create a separate looking touch panel when the wall's open.
Yeah, that's something I normally incorporate into a design when I'm doing divide combine, some sort of optical sensor so that, the rooms configure automatically. They don't have to think about it. What are some common features that you normally like to incorporate into a user interface?
We often incorporate timers, allowing you to either, most people use it for turning the system off after midnight, so they're not sitting on all night long, or they can turn them on. I mean, in a lot of cases, some of the systems we use, especially in the kind of modern office spaces, are open spaces that use digital signage when they're not being used for conferencing or whatnot. So as soon as you're done, if there's a time they want to switch it back to digital signage, or in the morning they turn the system on and switch to the digital signage. Makes it a little easier than having somebody walk around and hit a button on every single system. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's just ease of use. The more buttons there are, the more likelihood there is for something to go wrong. Are you seeing requests for incorporating voice assistants?
Not as much anymore. That really happened probably about, I'm going to say 12 years ago or so. We were getting a lot of requests for that. The one job I could remember was a country club. We were putting systems in where the manager wanted to walk around with an iPad and be able to tell the system to turn on and off. It's interesting. There has been times when I've seen incorporation, like things like Alexa or Siri, but not as much in the commercial end of things. Mostly those were kind of residential type systems.
Yeah, and residential systems, I think, have the ability or breadth to be much more unique for the user than typical commercial AV systems, because that can be unique to whoever owns the home or whatever. Commercial AV, we've got a wide variety of people that could be using the room. So lastly, how can someone find out more about how we can assist the integrator with their programming needs?
Well, the big thing for us is E4. Go to the E4 shows. You can find out all about it. Usually have someone there to talk about services. Usually my boss is there every time. I will probably be at the next one, which I believe is Boston. So that's one of the best approaches you can do, or look at our website.
Yep, exertisalmo.com.
Yep, I have a lot of information.
Well, Drew, I really appreciate your time today. It was good to get together.
Yeah, it's great. Great talking with you, Tom.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for listening.